Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So there was football on the TV last night, huh? Y'all watched it. Shannon, was that game on ESPN?
Certainly was.
I'm so glad you guys watched that football game. Suckers. Seriously, man. I have not watched a preseason football game yet, but then again, I don't have a team because I had a narcotic that I used to use that I quit long before they blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl, which makes me a lot smarter than most of the people who listen to this show. Shannon, you actually have a football team. Do you watch them? Like, have you been watching preseason? Did you watch the Giants last night against the Browns?
Most certainly did, and I came away with quite a few concerns.
Right, most notably the fact that Odell Beckham kind of got himself blowed out right there. His ankle got debacled. Like, not debacled. I feel like it's going too far to say it got debacled. Debacled is a little bit too much. But Odell took a shot low, and it was one of those where it's ruh-roh, Shaggy, you don't know what happens. I think it was Mike Garofalo made the point that would probably save Odell is the fact that his cleat did not get stuck in the grass. Therefore, his leg was not stationary. But they're saying that he got the high ankle sprain. And, you know, Odell, he played up the drama on it. Shannon, what do you think about Odell when they camera followed him back and he was laid out on the ground with his booty all in the air, just looking like he was like the world was about to end?
I give it to Odell. He knows when the camera's on him.
Yes, like you think he does that when nobody's around? Like when nobody's around, he's in there like, I'm good, I'm straight, just a sprain, no big deal. You can't blame him for being scared, though. See, this is where I don't knock him on that is everybody else was afraid that it was all bad for him, so why doesn't he get to be afraid that it was all bad, right? I mean, we see this when guys think they've really been hurt. Now, granted, he wasn't, like, hurt in that way, but there he was, done for. And you Giants fans, everybody that acts like Odell being greedy, trying to get all this money and everything else, you realize just how much money Odell Beckham was worth at that very moment because you Giants fans were every bit as scared as he was, and it ain't even your leg. You out there just trying to think to yourself, what is going to be with this team that doesn't run the ball especially well, doesn't block especially well, put a top 10 pick in a left tackle who seems like he might be better at tackling than lefting. And then you have Eli, who, you know, he's who he is. Shannon, when people give up on Eli turning the corner, what, like last year? Is what, 12th year? 13th year?
Yeah, I think folks are just comfortable with that's just Eli.
He's what he is, right? He's got 2 World Series. He's got 2 World Championships, so you're not going to be in a situation where you complain about him. And apparently, they traded for Jeremy Hill, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's how you know the Giants need a running game, because at least in terms of image and perception, the Giants are on one end of the spectrum. The Bengals are on another end of the spectrum, and Jeremy Hill is one of those dudes that you look up at the draft board and you're like, oh, yeah, he's got Bengals written all over him. Oh, not anymore, Shannon. He has Giants written all over him. Now, my question is, do you think Jeremy Hill's good enough to run where there are no holes? You think he can pull that off? That's the job, right?
Going to have to, because that offensive line, oh, boy, it's awful.
Yeah, but we also know, man, if the Giants want to go to the Super Bowl, we know what they need to do with their running game. Go get Brandon Jacobs, baby. I mean, isn't that what they always do? When it's time to get a championship, didn't Brandon Jacobs leave in between those championships and come back and be a part of the next championship? And now he got a jersey on his wall that is not actually his. Remember that? But that's where they are. Now, I saw a lot of people after Beckham got hurt were looking at it like, oh, man, you can't hit somebody like that. Real talk. Where are you okay with football players getting hit? Like, I feel like people need to quit trying to ask for this cigarette to be safer and be honest with themselves about this. Where do you think it is appropriate to hit a football player in 2017? Like, what body part do you think is appropriate to hit? Because at this point, basically, you're saying the only place that's appropriate to hit a football player is in the actual strike zone. Like, not like there is a strike zone, like the baseball strike zone. Like, do you think the only place that's appropriate to hit a football player is in the breadbasket? Because let me tell you something. There ain't a lot of opportunities to hit nobody in the breadbasket in a football game. It doesn't work that way. You know why? Because if you try to hit somebody in the breadbasket and they catch the ball and then they put their head down, now it's 15 yards or perhaps even more discipline. And if you're one of the minimum salary cats, them $25,000 checks or whatever they're going to hit you for wind up being pretty significant. So what winds up happening? dudes have to go low. Why do dudes have to go low? Again, you don't want to hit him in the head. What does going low mean? You're probably here and there going to wind up hitting somebody in the knees. Now, hitting somebody in the knees becomes interesting because football players had long said they would much rather get hit in the head than get hit in the knees because they felt like getting hit in the head was not going to end their career, but getting hit in the knee might end their career. And our response was, stop being stupid. Your brain is a terrible thing to waste. You don't want to walk around with neurological damage for the rest of your life. Then somebody mess around and get hit in the knee, and then what do we say? How dare you hit somebody in the knee, especially in a preseason game? And see, the preseason game then takes us to a different place in this fascinating logic as we try to reckon with ourselves about what we're doing when we're watching football. So anytime somebody gets hurt in the preseason game, the first thing we say is, well, why do you even have that guy out here in this game that doesn't count? So then what do you wind up doing? You put somebody else in the game. Now, the difference typically is when you put somebody else in the game, it winds up being somebody you've never heard of. And so you put the guy in that you've never heard of, and then he gets hit in the knee, and nobody cares. Like if that was a dude who no one had ever heard of, who got hit the same way that Odell Beckham did, do you think anybody would be wasting any time talking about how you can't hit a guy like that? Nah. So when we talk about this in preseason, our whole notion is this game doesn't even count. Why are you out here rolling the dice? And that tells you everything that you need to know about football. We all believe that football is too unsafe to play if it doesn't count. Now, my question for you, does football somehow get safer when the game does count? No. Actually, it doesn't. It is actually the same exact game. Your knees are your knees. Getting hit in them is the same thing. Nothing changes, right? Everything is exactly the same when the game counts. So why is it okay to do this when the game counts versus when the game doesn't count? Oh, that's right, because of your own entertainment, right? Like you want to save these cats so that they are actually playing in the games that count to you, not the games that you don't really pay attention to. Got it. It's football, guys. There's no safe way to do this. There's no good way to do this. There's no easy way to do this. There are dudes who are out here basically making trades. They are trading on their bodies in the short term so they can have that feeling of being football players. That's by and large it. Like we're now reaching a point where we have a generation of players that will have a difficult time making a compelling argument that they had no idea what they were stepping into. More information is available. More truth has been told. People kind of know what it is. Like if you want to be guilt-free about it, I think that you have your ability right there. These dudes have decided that this is, in fact, what they want to do, right? If you need that plausible deniability for yourself, boom, there you go. You got it. But just stop and think about what everything else is that you are saying. Because, again, if this game is too unsafe, think about it, Shannon. It's too unsafe to play in practice. Am I lying? Am I right here?
Essentially, practices have been scaled down. Not saying they're walkthroughs, but yes, for the most part, they are.
So it's too unsafe to play in practice. It's too unsafe for children to play. And when I say children, I mean like children, right? So it's too unsafe for them to do. It is too unsafe to do if the game is simply an exhibition. It is safe enough if it reaches the highest levels of our own entertainment. Like, that's where we are. And that's what I thought. My man Don Van Natta said something about how you shouldn't be playing if you hit somebody like that in the preseason game, and everybody flipped out, and they're like, where are you supposed to hit him, where are you supposed to hit him, where are you supposed to hit him? And I understood where they were coming from. I also understood where Don was coming from. But I understand that all of us are coming from a place that is unquestionably one born of rationalization. We are trying to find a way to say to ourselves that it is okay for us to watch this. And it is. Like, when we watch it, this is what we do. We watch boxing. We watch all kinds of other stuff that is borderline inhumane. But if you see somebody get hurt on a hit in a preseason game and your response is, why you hit somebody like that in preseason, you hustling backwards, baby. You hustling backwards. Because think about it like this. Even if a player's intention is not to hurt somebody when he hits them, the intention is to hit that person as hard as they can. Right? Like, that's about how that goes. And generally speaking, when people that size hit someone else as hard as they can, you know what's entirely possible? Injury. So it's not the plan, but it is kind of the point. Like, the fear of being hurt is part of the game. All of this is in there. So when you see that dude get hit in the knee like that, my response is not, how dare you do that? My response is, when's the next play? It's a football game. What the hell do you think we was watching?
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So, Michael Bennett said he wanted white dudes to get out here and do something with the anthem protest or in one way or another. And what do you know? White dudes are like, I'll be that. Chris Long did his thing with Malcolm Jenkins for the Eagles. We had Derek Carr standing by Khalil Mack. Shannon, did we have another white dude? Oh, yeah, Justin Britt. There we go. Justin Britt. This happened. It's cool, right? Now, I've said that I'm a little bit like, okay, let's be careful about this and not make the story so much about, like, the white dudes who are doing this. Let us not lose sight of the cause. Anyway, last night, the Cleveland Browns, they wound up themselves in a very interesting situation. Now, here's something that Hugh Jackson said last Wednesday about players standing during the national anthem.
I think everybody has a right to do, and I get it, but the national anthem means a lot to myself personally, an organization, our football team. I hope, again, I can't speak. I haven't really talked to our team about it. I would hope we don't have those issues. I understand there's a lot going on in the world. I like to just keep it here. What we deal with, we try to deal with as a team in our closed environment. We talk about things, but hopefully that won't happen.
Now, he said he hoped that his team didn't have them issues. 12 dudes on his team was like, nah, bro, actually we have them. We have them. 12 of them, bro. 12 of them. Well, they were praying. That is what they did during the national anthem. They took a knee away from the sideline. A lot of people said, whoa, on the immediate sight of it. When I saw it, I thought, okay, well, maybe these cats are down here praying. And praying, praying is the trick, man. They'll never say anything to you about you if you're praying. I mean, if you're not Muslim, then they might say something. Like, Shannon, imagine that somebody stopped the game in the middle of it. Excuse me, which way's east? All right, y'all give me just 1 second. I'll be right back out here. Then I think that would turn into a problem.
Yeah, big difference.
Hey, man, somebody, hand me that rug over there, man. Let me roll that thing out right quick. Okay, cool. Like, then it might be a problem. But if you're praying to a Christian God, then people are going to let you slide for just about anything. And so, here are the players who took a knee. Duke Johnson, Terrence McGee, Jabril Peppers, Calvin Pryor, Jamar Taylor, Kenny Britt, Ricardo Lewis, who's this Kirksey character? Christian Kirksey, Jamie Collins, Isaiah Crowell, and Brandon Wilds, and also Sean DeValve. I know you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking right now. I'm surprised I knew that many Cleveland Browns, too. I was shocked. I went through this. I don't know anybody who plays for the Browns, but it sounded like everybody I knew who played for the Browns, except for Joe Thomas, was involved in this. Now, Shannon, Deshaun Kaiser was over there standing next to him, right?
He was in the vicinity as well, yeah.
He was in the vicinity. Deshaun Kaiser, ostensible quarterback of the future for the Browns. Now, Sean DeValve becomes interesting in this case because Sean DeValve is white. Right. And he wasn't just standing next to the homies. He was down taking a knee with them, right? Like, we'd seen the cat stand next to the homies. This time, my man was like, no, I am going to take a knee. And here he is explaining why he took a knee.
I wanted to support my African-American teammates today who wanted to take a knee. We wanted to draw attention to the fact that there's things in this country that still need to change. And I myself will be raising children that don't look like me. And I want to do my part as well to do everything I can to raise them in a better environment than we have right now. So I wanted to take the opportunity with my teammates during the anthem, to pray for our country and also to draw attention to the fact that we have work to do. And that's why I did what I did.
Well, I apparently said the gentleman's name wrong. It's Seth DeValve. I don't know what I said there. I apologize. But, Shannon, you saw they heard that in the end. He talked about he's raising a kid who does not, look like him. He is married to a black woman. And sounds to me like somebody's going to get a much bigger slice of turkey at Thanksgiving this year.
A bigger hug from the mother-in-law, huh?
Come on in, son. Hey. Even like, this man ain't never been this nice to me before in my life. What the hell is going on here? Come on, boy, sit down. Sit in my chair. Yeah. Nah, you cool. Go ahead and sit down in my chair. Hey, somebody bring this boy something to drink. You want some Crown? We got some Crown right here. We just hoping you have some Crown. Would you like some Crown? Sorry, did I ruin everybody's touching moment? Because I got jokes. I got jokes at this point about all this. Like, all these things are basically the same. Joke number one, I feel like, ties in with Hugh Jackson. What was Hugh Jackson thinking when them cats rolled up at him and was like, yo, I know what you said, coach, but me and the fellas have been over here talking, and we going to do this and ain't nothing. But don't worry, man, we praying. You think that was what they did? They sold Hugh Jackson on as we were going to pray, so they were over there praying. Number two, I got questions about, like, Kaiser and them other dudes who were standing next to the crew but were not actually participating with the crew. Shannon, you think there's a possibility that Deshaun Kaiser was originally supposed to be down, and then he got over there like, we really going to do this?
Y'all serious? Y'all serious about this?
I mean, are we sure this is the best way to do this, man? They're going to be mad at us. Are you sure? And then Kaiser got over there and then was just like, I'm going to just stand here showing support. Yeah. I'm right here. Then he walks over there and he's like, okay. And I don't know if this is actually happening, but you could totally see it. So he's walking over there and he sees the cats getting down there to pray. He's getting there, he's like, all right, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. The next thing you know, he look up and hit a white dude down on his knee. While this is going on, the Kaiser's like, see, why you got to be out here making me look bad? I don't understand. Like what this is. He'll be walking up to D-Man DeVal. What's going on, bruh? What's up, Deshaun? How you been? Yeah, man. Okay, cool. No, I was just wondering. So there they were. Again, praying always works. Nobody's going to knock you if you pray. That's just what it's going to be. You know what that tells you also, though? Aside from the jokes. That's how you know this ain't about the national anthem. Because if this is about the national anthem, it doesn't matter if you're praying or not. Right? If the whole idea is that you're supposed to pay respect and deference to the national anthem, you're not supposed to be doing anything else while that goes on, right? The issue here is not, was not, and never has been about the national anthem. The issue has been about the cause underlying why some guys are not standing for the national anthem. Because if you are such an absolutist about these troops and everything else, then you don't want to hear no explanation why it is for somebody kneeling for the national anthem. Because Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the national anthem, and that was in an attempt to show deference to the military and everything else, right? Like, that was what the program was on that. You ain't care about that, though. All you cared about was the fact that you didn't like him doing it. These cats are showing deference in a very similar way, even though two different people. They are doing the same things during the national anthem that Kaepernick was doing during the national anthem. The greater beef is with Kaepernick because the greater beef is what the actual cause is that Kaepernick is talking about. These dudes say they just want to come up here and pray. You're okay with it. Kaepernick says, y'all need to do right by us. Now we got a problem. Isn't it funny how that kind of spells itself out just that easily? Isn't it funny how once you just take that small moment to appreciate what's going on, you realize what the real problem is? You remember all those people who was like, well, I don't have a problem with his message. I have a problem with the way that he's doing it. Well, a lot of people are doing it for a message in a very similar way, and you seem to be okay with it, just as long as they were praying. Which tells me that this is not about the national anthem. Hasn't been, won't be. Be honest with yourself about that fact, then you might be able to get somewhere. In the meantime, there's Deshaun Kaiser. Coach, we still good, right? Like, I don't know if you noticed, but, like, I know you're trying to figure out who's going to be the starter, but, I mean, I was standing. Like, my back was straight as hell whole way. Say, can you see? Dawn's early light. Home of the brave.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check his work out at theundefeated.com. Also, check him out on the Morning Roast, 9 to 12 Eastern, Sunday mornings on ESPN Radio. His name is Dominique Foxworth. All right, Dominique, you are a defensive back. You were always riding for the defensive backs. What did you think when people reacted to that hit Odell Beckham took last night and said that dude shouldn't have hit him in the knees?
I mean, I think most reasonable people can understand that things are happening fast out there, and the only kind of directive you have is don't hit him in the head. So you get him down any way that you can. I imagine that the player was not looking to hurt him. I think that's where we draw the line in my mind between dirty and not dirty. Like, dirty is if that's your intent. If you're trying to do something with the intention of hurting him. Not dirty is when you're trying to bring the best receiver in the game down before he turns around and becomes a problem for you. So, I mean, it seemed like we needed something to talk about today, so we made the conversation dirty or not dirty, but I don't think any reasonable people think that was actually like a bad play.
And now, for you, as former player, what's the one play that comes up in a football game and you're like, okay, man, this is too much?
As far as, like, being, like, too violent necessarily?
Yeah, just being too – the thing that's over the line.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, anytime players get hurt, it kind of pulls me out of the game. Like, when the concussions and stuff happen and guys are unconscious, it pulls me out of the game. But there are plays, like, when there's just a traditional ISO play, like, which is just a fullback trying to block the middle linebacker in the hole, head up, full speed, a good 10 yards running start between two guys that are like 240 to 250 pounds, and they slam each other, and they just get up like nothing happened. Every time that happens, I see it, and I'm like, that can't be good for them long term. But I think most people don't really notice those sorts of things happening. But those big hits, when guys' arms get stiff and their eyes roll in the back of their head, and we see all that with HD. And it's funny because it's been quite a maturation process, because there was a time when I was in high school, even in college, and probably even early in my NFL career, when that happened to people, like that was like a source of pride if you made it happen, and kind of a source of humor if you were a spectator. And now we're smart enough to know that ain't funny.
All right, we're talking to Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated here on The Right Time. Now, switching gears, what did you think when you saw that your man Raj got a 5-year contract extension?
I am never going to hate on anybody getting that money. So I'm proud of Raj getting it any way he can. Whether we think he's doing a good job or not, I think the scoreboard is the revenue, and the revenue is going up for the owners, so I think they're very happy. And I think it's important to understand that they kind of ran Paul Tagliabue off because they felt that Paul was a little too friendly with the players, and his relationship with Gene was problematic as far as them maximizing their revenue, and they wanted someone who was going to do their bidding more directly and take those arrows that come with it. And I think it's hard for them to be upset with Roger, because he's done everything that they've expected of him. He may not have done it in the neatest way possible, but you can't argue with the results. So I'm not one that's going to say he doesn't deserve it. I certainly agree with people who say that there are other people that could probably do his job as well or better, but I think it's a lot harder than people give. I don't think it's as random. You can't just pick somebody off the street and throw him in there. Like, I think his job is a lot harder and more cerebral, frankly, than people give him credit for. Whether he's perfect at it or not, I think we can all say he's not. But I think that, like I said, I'm not going to get in the way of anybody getting that money. So Raj getting that money, congratulations to him.
Well, the one thing I do find interesting is that when he took that job, they put in a lot of effort to build the legend of Roger Goodell and the credibility of him. And now that's all gone. And now it seems like, okay, well, we don't care about that.
Yeah, but they have this, he's a meat shield. It's cool because when that was all fun and good and we all believed, or not us, but like the general public believed that Roger was this great noble man who was going to clean up the NFL, they benefited from that. But the cool thing about having a commissioner is when it is no longer, when the people no longer feel that good about him, you can say, oh no, Roger's not the NFL, Roger's Roger. And they've been able to, if you notice, it's very little criticism goes to the NFL at large. Instead, we all stood around talking about how Roger has fumbled, or how Roger made a mistake on this fine. And the NFL stays clean, which is all the owners care about, is having that pristine shield that they can sell to beverage sponsors and that we can consume regularly, and they can keep padding their pockets, which is what they're doing. So, all the responsibilities of Roger Goodell is raise the revenue, protect the NFL's reputation, and he seems to be doing a pretty good job of that.
Well, at least one of them. We're talking to Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated in the Morning Rose, 9 to 12 Eastern here on ESPN Radio. So some actual football here. You've been keeping a watch on these rookie quarterbacks out here in the preseason?
I try not to, as a matter of principle, I try not to watch too many preseason games, but I take up a few plays here or there, especially when they're rookie quarterbacks that I need to know about. And I don't know, I think it's like you look back and how freshman quarterbacks are doing better. It's like an encouraging thing to see these young quarterbacks doing better, but it also speaks to the fact that this is becoming a full-time job earlier and earlier for these kids. Like when I was coming up, I think when I got to college was when I realized that football was a job, somewhere around the end of my freshman season. But I think for these kids, like you don't get to the NFL and perform this way, or perform in college as well as some of those freshmen, without it being a full-time job from the time you are in 6th, 7th grade, which I guess it pays off in the long run, but it's kind of scary to me.
Now, are you surprised Bill O'Brien is so adamant that Tom Savage is the starter, given how Deshaun Watson has looked?
No, coaches lie. You've been in this business long enough to know that they're not telling the truth. Tom Savage's days are numbered, and they're probably shorter than even Tom Savage knows. And, I think Bill O'Brien, their offense was holding them back last year, and Bill O'Brien probably was not happy about that, given that he's an offensive guy. That defense was very good. And I think they ran off most of their offensive staff, and Bill O'Brien is now taking over. So it's not as if he could be the head coach and still hold out on having this very talented weapon on his bench. When you're the offensive coordinator also, and you're the head coach, the decision, I think, is much quicker because if things go poorly the first week, you're not going to sit around and let people blame you anymore. They're no longer pointing their finger at the OC. You're going to bring in that savior that you drafted in the first round.
All right, last question for Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated here on The Right Time. How worried would you be if you were a Colts fan about the prospect that Andrew Luck won't be ready to start the year?
10 on a scale of 1 to 10, that he is. And Colts fans are very familiar with the quarterback being the only or the most important part of their entire franchise. And so they know how bad things got without Peyton Manning. And I think they might get just as bad without Andrew Luck. He may not be as good as Peyton Manning yet, but he is as important to that franchise as Peyton ever was. And they lose them, they go down to the second string and relying. No disrespect to Frank Gore, he's great. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's not the type of guy that you can build offenses around at this point. He's a good piece to have when you have a Pro Bowl level quarterback. But if you don't have that, you can go ahead and scrap that season and get ready to start looking towards April, towards the draft.
All right, last question for you. Actually, this is the last question for you.
Okay.
You got 1 minute left on this because I just thought about this. Your man, Chuck Pagano, is the head coach of the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
There's a headline in the paper there that says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy about him." Is it possible to turn into a new person just that fast?
I mean, it is not possible. I think Chuck is a genuine good dude, a smart coach, and a good football mind, but it's tough. I mean, I talk about what's happened with the Jets and how it seems like they're now putting their coach in a no-win situation in the third year, second to last year of his contract. He's probably going to end up getting fired because of that. And I think some of that could possibly be true with Chuck and how he spent time there with Grigson. So, I mean, my biases, I'm open about my biases most of the time. I played for Chuck, and I think he's a good man, and I like him very much. I want him to do well. But I think it's inarguable that he hasn't had a great situation. He hasn't had the perfect supporting cast. So, I think all excuses probably will get thrown out the window at the end of this season, though.
All right, that's Dominique Foxworth. Check out the Morning Roast, 9 to 12 Eastern, Sunday mornings on ESPN Radio. Also, check them out at theundefeated.com. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Always.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So Hard Knocks coming on tonight. I haven't watched Hard Knocks yet. I don't know if there's anything left for me to see on Hard Knocks. I feel like every possible scenario that you could envision that could come up on Hard Knocks, I feel like we've seen them all. It doesn't wind up being that much new for me, and I'm not that interested in who, most of these guys are as football players. But we have Jameis. We were very curious who would wind up being the star this time on Hard Knocks. And I think we thought Miko was going to wind up being the star because there is Brent and Miko. But, Jameis, I guess we knew Jameis was going to be the dude, right? That was it. Jameis, the quarterback. Jameis is that dude. Now, the tricky thing about Jameis is, a whole lot of people, for reasons that I do, in fact, understand, are not so, wild about Jameis. They're not that keen on Jameis. The whole thing with this allegation of sexual assault that I don't feel like any of us really have any great answer as to what happened there. At least I don't. I've always felt like on that thing with Jameis was I am certainly willing to entertain the possibility that sexual assault occurred. I have not seen it proven demonstrably that such a thing happened. I just haven't, right? But I don't know what to do with it because I guess I can look at anybody else in the world and say that it's possible they committed a sexual assault. But with Jameis, I guess we have a little bit more, and it kind of hangs, and it has hung in the air with him for a while, even though, again, I don't feel like any of us have anything definitive one way or another that we could point to that says whether or not he did it. But it has created a level of discomfort that has surrounded him. Well, now Jameis is on Hard Knocks. Now, the bottom line is that case, at the very least, is done. I don't think there's anything that's going to pop up where we're going to talk again about Jameis in that particular case. Meg, who knows? Something else come up. I can't really speak on if that might happen or anything else. But that's the one that we've been working off of, and nothing new is going to come around. And as a result, it sounds like the folks at Hard Knocks were like, okay, it's okay to make people like Jameis again. And now Jameis is all over this, man. Shannon, what they say, they had Jameis go back to the old spot in Alabama. What was it? His granny stepping on roaches and stuff.
Back to the same house and showing, where he's from, where he grew up, pictures on the wall, the whole nine.
Was there plastic on the furniture?
Maybe. I don't know, though. No, I didn't see plastic. It's too hot. It's too hot down there that still have the plastic on the furniture. Your thighs stick to the plastic.
While it's too hot for their plastic to be on the furniture, that furniture costs too much money to not have plastic. See? See, it's the middle ground. I don't know how people just consistently sat on furniture with plastic. Did you ever have a full time? Oh, you had that one.
Oh, my grandparents' living room. Oh, that plastic did not come off.
Like, what's the point of having the couch if you can't sit on it? What's the point?
The same reason of having a formal living room that you can't walk into.
Well, that's different though. That's for you to look at from a distance, right? But you're actually using the couch that has the plastic on it. You're using it. And it's not comfortable at all. At all. But anyway, yes, we're back. Jameis. Is it okay to like Jameis now? Because what I feel like what's happened in Hard Knocks is a reminder of the fact that, look, we were like generally on the Jameis program until the allegations came around. You know, it was that game against Clemson where they beat them like 50-5 or something like that, and they had a delay in the start of the game, and they showed Jameis in the locker room, and he's talking to them dudes, and they got all charged up, and it was just like, oh, wait a minute, something different here. Right? Like, we have something truly different here. One, he looked like he was going to be the next great quarterback. I think now it's pretty safe to say that his ceiling is probably at very good, but not necessarily great. He looked like he was going to be the next great quarterback, and he was ready to be like the face of a college football program in a way that freshmen typically are. And there's all kinds of awkward things that he'd wind up saying, but there was a certain confidence and a charm that he had. And, by the way, a charm that we don't see very often from quarterbacks because he country. Oh, he is so country. Like, Jen, when's the last time we had like a cartoonishly country quarterback in that way? Because Brett Favre was country, but it wasn't like a cartoon.
That's where I was going. I was going to go Brett Favre, yeah, because Brett Favre was all kind of country.
But it wasn't like this. Right? Like, it was like Jameis country is completely different. Like, Jameis country is you expect weird phrases and idioms and stuff like that to come out. But now we found out that Jameis jersey, this is according to Dick's Sporting Goods jersey report, Jameis jersey is now number 31 overall in sales. It went up 35 spots from the week before, which is, at least it sounds to me, people watching and being like, hey, I kind of rock with Jameis again. Is it okay to rock with Jameis again? Is it okay? Because I feel like if you was out here wearing a Jameis jersey in 2014, you were setting yourself up for. So what you trying to say? What you mean? So are we at that point? Like, are we outside of the shadow of that? And I know, look, for some people, it's never going to be outside of the shadow. Again, I don't quite know how they're so sure that he committed a crime. But for some people, it ain't going to be so like this, but so far out of the shadow that you can ultimately get. But now it seems like the league is on board with this. And look, the league, one thing about this league, Michael Vick got out of the pen and they let y'all argue about whether he should be able to play or not while they put them jerseys on NFL.com right away. Like, why y'all work that out? Let's go ahead and get this money while we can. Now, the next question, of course, is whether or not people can get on board with Jameis and liking Jameis in that way. You going to chill out with them interceptions? Because Jameis is in that interesting situation. I don't think it's terribly different from Andrew Luck, where we can talk about how smart Andrew Luck is, but that doesn't stop Andrew Luck from making bad decisions. Jameis is kind of in that same place. Like, I imagine they go through the film session with Jameis and they get to the line. They're like, all right, Jameis, what do you see here? And Jameis goes through and runs down the whole coverage, right? Like, breaks down everything that's going to happen. Now, James, what did you do? I threw the ball right at the linebacker. Why'd you do that? I don't be knowing, coach. I don't really be knowing. And that has to be maddeningly frustrating if you root for like such a team, right? Now, granted, Tampa Bay. When's the last time Tampa Bay had a quarterback worth a damn, Shannon? Has Tampa Bay had a quarterback worth a damn since Doug Williams? Good luck. Try to name it. They had that one good year from Josh Freeman. They had a lot of, what's his name? Brad Johnson? I don't think Brad Johnson counts as worth a damn, do you?
Folks that will defend the Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trent Dilfer, he don't work here no more, so we can tell the truth.
Didn't he fall in the category for both, actually?
He's so bad. He's so bad.
Question I had on you, speaking of Jameis and interceptions and likability, are fans willing to accept your interceptions if they like you? Like, if it's a quarterback that you don't like, are you really you're more apt to get on them because you don't like them?
Yeah. But name the likable quarterback other than Brett Favre, who had Super Bowls and all. But Brett Favre was an all-time great, right? Like, it wasn't so much that you let him slide for the interceptions as much as the interceptions just came as part of the deal. And at his best, at Brett Favre's best, he did not throw interceptions in that way. So who else we got? Like, who's ever been likable while throwing a bunch of interceptions?
Rodgers go through a stretch where he was throwing picks?
No.
Oh, well then.
No. Yeah, Tom Brady. We don't have that. Nah. There's no quarterback that people like while they throwing picks. Phillip Rivers maybe, but I feel like we like Phillip Rivers because we got a measure of sympathy, you know. He got all them damn kids. I'd throw interceptions, too, if I had all them damn kids. You think you'd throw a bunch of interceptions if you had a bunch of kids like that? I wouldn't be able to keep things straight, would you? I also sat here on the website trying to find the Chargers and couldn't find it, and realized I was looking for San Diego, and, you know, they don't play in San Diego. How many years is it going to be, Shannon, before you stop calling them the San Diego Chargers?
At least 3.
I think it's going to be longer than that. For me, it'll be the rest of my life. And I know this because it wasn't that long ago that my daddy asked me a question about the Baltimore Colts. 888-729-3776. Let's talk to Glenn in Philly. Glenn, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, how are you today?
Doing all right, man.
Good. Listen, man, we have to give Jameis a break. He was not charged with any crime, my brother. So you can't. I mean, you gotta be like that cartoon and let it go.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I appreciate the call, but the charge standard is kind of low. Like, I don't blame people if they really have an evidentiary basis for believing that he committed this crime. I don't blame them if they got a beef with him, right? I mean, we're at a point we can't trust law enforcement on these things necessarily. I just haven't seen the rock-solid evidentiary basis. All I got is, I'm not sure what to do with this. And I don't know how long that's going to hang. And I wonder how long what change comes simply by being on Hard Knocks? Like, people getting familiar with him in that way. How much of it changes just because he's on Hard Knocks?
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Penzo Performance Line, just like our next guest, NFL insider for us here at ESPN. Also, check out his podcast, Know Him from Adam. His name is Adam Schefter. Now, Adam, we saw Odell Beckham take that hit last night. The MRI came back negative. Do we have any idea how severe the injury is?
Well, listen, Bomani, I don't think you're going to see him the rest of the preseason. I think if the Giants put him out there for the last 2 preseason games, it would be a major upset. I think you rest him up, you get him ready for the regular season opener against the Dallas Cowboys. OBJ sounded confident that he would be out there. I'm sure there's recovery time. I'm sure, there's some pain and discomfort that he's going to have to work through, but I think he'll be out there against the Cowboys on opening night.
Now, we've heard some people have some discussion about the hit that he took and whether or not it was clean or not. But is there anything the NFL can do about hits like those?
Listen, they can always come up with more rules. I think the league has done quite a bit of that. We're living in a day and age where the league has tried to legislate a lot of these hits and where it has basically prohibited players from hitting in the head area, so now players hit lower. And that hit last night was legal by the rule book. It's just that it drew the ire and the wrath of many players around the league who didn't like it. They thought it was a dirty hit. They thought he shouldn't be going low in a preseason game, diving into players' legs. Now, on the play, the pass was a bit high, and Odell had to jump up to catch it, so he was a little bit out of position in that regard, and the defensive backs fell to the ground. I just think it's one of those unfortunate things that when you play the sport of football, it happens. It's legal, didn't look good. Players didn't like it. Understand why they didn't like it, but it just happens sometimes.
All right, we're talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, staying with that game, how safe is it to assume that Deshaun Kaiser will be the starter for Cleveland in Week 1?
Oh, I don't think it's very safe at all. I mean, I think that if you speak to people in that organization, there's no doubt that they're very pleased with him. But I think the feeling has been, and we'll see whether Hugh Jackson changes course here, that Deshaun Kaiser needs time to develop and needs time to get some seasoning here and experience. And I don't think that they've wanted to play him Week 1. Now, he's been the more impressive player in the preseason games for whatever that's worth. Yeah, but I think that they feel like Brock Osweiler's got experience. They played 3 of their first 4 games against divisional opponents, which will be tough games. I think that they'd like to go, if they can, with the more experienced guy, and knowing that they could always turn to Deshaun Kaiser. And look, at some point, and it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. I just think right now, if it were Week 1, it would be a surprise. Hugh Jackson said he'd like to make that decision tomorrow. We'll see whether or not he comes clean on that.
Now, how has he felt about Osweiler's performance?
Well, look, it's not exactly like he's inspired all this great excitement. People in Cleveland are buying playoff tickets right now. But, I mean, he's been steady and solid. He's been better than they expected. He's gone from a quarterback that when they acquired him, along with a second-round draft pick from Houston, that they were going to trade, and he's gone from being a quarterback that they don't really want to trade. They want to keep around. And, again, he's been pretty good by all accounts in OTAs and practices. Hasn't looked as great in the games. I think they're hesitant right now to go to Deshaun Kaiser. Maybe they change their mind today, and maybe they decide to go that route. It would surprise me. But, look, again, I think we all could agree. Kaiser's going to get his chance this season, probably going to get his chance some point early. I just don't think it's going to be the first week of the season.
All right, we're talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, Jared Goff has been better in this preseason than he was the last time that we saw him. Is this a matter of him growing or just a different system that's better suited for his skills?
Well, I think he's working with Sean McVay. There's a reason the Rams went out and got him. The people that are around Sean McVay, that know Sean McVay, they believe that he's a bright, offensive, innovative, intelligent mind, somebody that they have a lot of faith in. And I think it's a case where, again, they think that he could be the right guy to get Goff straightened out. That's why the Rams hired him. That's their hope, that Sean McVay can bring it out in him. And we'll see whether or not he can do that. The first preseason game was an encouraging step. It was one game. It's only a preseason game. The Raiders didn't game plan. I get all that. But if Goff had looked like he did last year, everybody would have been very quick to pounce on him and criticize him. He looked better than I think the people expected he would.
All right, now staying on the quarterback kick, were you surprised that Bill O'Brien came out and so definitively said that Tom Savage would be their starter?
No. Again, with any of these rookie quarterbacks, whether it's Deshaun Kaiser or Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes or Mitchell Trubisky, I think you've got a situation where those young guys, they need time. I know. Look, last year everybody was calling for Jared Goff. When are we going to see Jared Goff? When are they going to put their veteran Case Keenum on the bench? Well, we got the rookie. How'd that work out? And a lot of these quarterbacks, the scouting report on them coming out was that none of them were ready. So, again, we're falling right back into that process of rushing them along when they're not ready, and the more time they get, the better off they'll be. And so we'll see which team succumbs to that first and falls for the pressure of these calls for the young rookie guy that's sexy and appealing to everybody, the fan bases. But, again, I think the better thing is for them to play it smart and not do it that way.
Now, a guy that we knew last year would need more time was Paxton Lynch, and this is the second year Trevor Siemian has won the job again. Are the Broncos at all worried about his development?
Listen, I think it has been slower than they expected, hoped, wanted. But the fact of the matter is Trevor Siemian has beaten him out, flat out beaten him out. And Trevor Siemian has met and beat every obstacle in his way the last 2 years. They went out and signed Mark Sanchez. He could not beat out Trevor Siemian. They went out and traded up to go draft Paxton Lynch in the first round. He could not beat out Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian has continued to perform above and beyond what anybody expected. I don't think he's gotten the credit he's deserved. He's outperformed Paxton Lynch on a daily basis in training camp. He's outperformed him in games. And I know people don't think much of him. He's a seventh-round draft pick. So, again, you want to fall in love with the high draft pick. But the better quarterback in this particular case won. And the better quarterback is starting for the Denver Broncos.
Well, how comfortable are the Broncos with the idea of Siemian as their starter, though? Is this something they can see being a long-term thing? Or is it... Oh, really?
Bomani, if you ask the people in that locker room, if they had gone a different direction and they had gone to the guy that was the first-round pick, they would have lost the respect of the players. Players know the deal. They know the score. And the deal was that the better quarterback this summer, the better quarterback during the offseason, won the job. They didn't go by where you're drafted. They went by the qualifications and the performance in camp. And as long as the performance was what it was, if they had gone in a different direction, then the players would not have reacted in a very positive way. And Vance Joseph, starting out as a new head coach in Denver, would have lost respect in his locker room.
All right, there he is. That is Adam Schefter. Check him out on ESPN. Also check his podcast, Know Him from Adam. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bomani. Have a great night.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All right, well, Odell Beckham seems to be okay. Shannon, you can unclench. You can let him go. You can free it up.
Whew. It was tight.
And lemon booty all over the place. No, it appears that Odell Beckham has a high ankle sprain. Although the high ankle sprain, I mean, I know a high ankle sprain is worse than a regular ankle sprain. I don't even know how high a high ankle sprain actually is. Like, when I hear about the high ankle sprain, it makes me ask myself, so how far up does the ankle actually go? Because I don't think of the ankle as being long enough to have all this space where there's a difference between high and low. But he had the dreaded high ankle sprain. The MRI came back as being negative. And don't worry, it sounds like Odell going to be ready for week 1. At least according to him.
Will you be ready for Dallas?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty concerned, but I think I'll be all right.
Was that sarcasm?
It definitely was a little bit of there.
It definitely was a little bit, which is somewhat oxymoronic, but whatever. My man says he's going to wind up playing. Now, Landon Collins ran up on Breon Body Calhoun. By the way, this hyphenated names thing, you know, we get a lot more of those, and you know what's gotten all over the place when cats named Calhoun are even throwing in hyphens. Like, that doesn't feel like the sort of name that winds up with a hyphen somewhere anywhere near. But anyway, he went low on Odell Beckham. Here's what he had to say after the game about the hit.
I'm thinking hit him low. Earlier in the game, you saw Jabril hit somebody really hard. You know, it's to hit him high. So I'm just thinking hit him low. You know, make sure I don't get no finer. If you watch the film, I hit him, got up, and went back to the huddle. Like, I didn't see anything that he did. By the time I turned around, he was already on the ground. So I didn't even know what I did. I was there when he caught the ball, but it wasn't nothing intentional. You know, I was just, like I said, I was just trying to hit him low, hit him in the target area. You know, which is, you know what I mean, from the neck to the knee. So just anywhere in there. But I wasn't aiming at nothing specific or anything like that.
Like, I feel bad for this dude to a degree because he's got to come out here and answer for the fact that he hit somebody in a football game when your job is hitting people in a football game. Now, look, DBs, by and large, are going low. Why? They're not as big as everybody else. So, like, low is the way that they can get this done, by and large. You mess around trying to go high on Odell Beckham. Like, if you were trying to wrap him up high, you think you about to get him? Like, really, you think you about to get him? Come on, man, that's not about to happen. And so my man went low. And after he went low, oh, man, all the offensive players with all the heat. Here's Chad Johnson on Twitter. Who is that going low on Odell as if he were a tight end or a running back? Could have easily tried to dislodge him from the ball up high. Arian Foster, not suspended, but he needs his bleep whooped. That bleep is whack. Most players follow that unwritten rule to take care of each other with those cheap shots. Sammy Watkins, got to make another rule change, man. Jarvis Landry, this is why I hate preseason BS. Chris Carter, this is why Odell wants a new contract. And Eric Ebron, that hit was uncalled for. SMH, you lift weights all offseason to throw your helmet at someone's knee. What else was the dude supposed to do? And that's the question I have for everybody here. We have taken away so much on where defensive players can actually hit offensive players. What else was the dude supposed to do? Right? We are not comfortable with the realities of the violence in the NFL. Now, I understand on those players where they're kind of like, look, man, you know that this, the X, Y, and Z could possibly happen, so try to avoid that if you at all can. But these are the hits that we've asked guys to do. But again, it becomes a reminder for you. Don't forget. Offensive players are like, you're going low, you're endangering my career. Yo, your whole career endangers your career. There's no real way around it. The biggest thing endangering your career as a football player is your career as a football player. Like, this isn't like, so, for example, let's say you were a classical piano player, right? You would not go out here and box. Why would you not go out here and box? Because boxing might mess up your hands and therefore endangering your career as a classical piano player. Football, can't play football. Why not? I might not be able to play football. I mean, that's it. That is what we have at the core of all of this. There's no real way to avoid it. So these dudes trying to make a team, trying to make the league, whatever it happens to be, man, hey, man, you got to go low in a situation like that. Because when that film comes back around and they're like, hey, Body Calhoun, why did you let Odell Beckham run away from you? I ain't want to hurt him, coach. It's a fraternity. It's a brotherhood, coach, and you know we try to protect each other. So I was just trying to be down with the brotherhood. Your coach being like, "Yeah, he's your brother. I'm your daddy. Like, what are you talking about? Go hit him." I thought that's what you were in this for. Go hit him. That's it. Landon Collins even ran up on dude, right? Landon Collins said after the game, quote, I said he was wrong for what he did. He said it is what it is. I'm just going to say it just like this. I couldn't have a teammate next to me playing that way. I can't condone it. It's nothing I seek. He had the opportunity to go out and make a different route. That's how I feel about it. It's not a penalty, but everybody knows that's something you don't do. Shannon, has anybody made the effort to go through all that Landon Collins film to find out all the times that he hit somebody low, especially back when he couldn't cover?
And that's what I was thinking about, too, with the Collins of all people who's known as a physical safety. Like you're the one? Of all the guys, like I can see if you'll say Rogers, Cromartie, or even Jenkins as the corners, but you're the guy. You're the most physical guy out there in the secondary.
He's like, I don't blow out knees, baby. I give concussions. It's a difference. Yeah. That's what we're going for here. Now, I mean, Beckham, it sounds like he's going to be okay, right? It does sound like he is going to be okay. Although, Shannon, interesting thought here. You know who the coordinator of the Browns defense is? Greg Williams.
Wait a minute.
Greg Williams.
Wait a second here.
I mean, I don't think he still does that, right?
He's off that narcotic?
By the way, is Greg Williams still out here looking like somebody who is not Greg Williams? Last time I saw Greg Williams, he looked like he was in witness protection. You remember that? He got the dye job and everything else. Like, Greg Williams came back to the league looking like literally a brand new man, right? Like, he made all the changes in life. And I don't feel like he made those changes by himself. Like, he was looking like he went to a consultant to be like, so what's my new look going to be? What is my new style about to be? And the last time Odell was out there against the Greg Williams defense, wasn't there some variety of brawl? Because he was with the Rams, right? Wasn't there some variety of brawl that happened out there? Yeah. But, again, if that's not Odell Beckham that takes that hit, if it's a player we've never heard of, nobody is having this discussion, right? And I also imagine that for players, it probably jumps out a little more seeing that happen with Beckham because Beckham is trying to get paid, right? Like, this is the year that Beckham needs to get through without suffering a major injury. Then he can get his bread. And I imagine all these cats like Ebron and Jarvis Landry, the guy be like, yo, for the grace of God, there goes I. Because that can be you thinking your payday is right around the corner. And Odell Beckham has been, like, crazy underpaid for these 3 years he's been in the league. Yeah, it's rookie slot and whatever. Crazy underpaid for these 3 years in the league. And now is your chance to catch in. And you were a cleat sticking in the ground away from the full-on shutdown. Oh, there's that brawl. I'd forgotten about this one. That's that Alec Ogletree got him out of bounds and slapped him in the face because these dudes be hating on Odell. Actually, I didn't forget about this. I don't think I ever saw this. Yo, Chad, imagine if this happened in the NBA.
The sideline reporter scurrying. Imagine that.
Oh, and then there was the swole punter acting like he wanted to stop the fight, and then the fight started, and he's like, whoa, guys, I'm just a punter. Stay away from me. Oh, no. I don't want any parts of this.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Just like our next guest, they are the authors of Violated, Exposing Rape in Baylor University Amid College Football's Sexual Assault Crisis. Their names are Paula Levine and Mark Schlabach. Now, it's always interesting doing an interview with two people where I'm not in the same place as the two people, so I will let you two decide on who gets to answer questions first. That fair? We work?
Sure.
All right, that'll go. All right, so the first thing, how difficult was it doing this book, given that this isn't a public school, so you can't just put in Freedom of Information Act requests and get back what you want?
Well, there is some of that. The police department there is subject to the Open Records Act, and the city police department is, the campus and city police departments are. So there was some of that. But you're right, it is a private school, and that makes it a lot more closed off and a lot more difficult.
Well, did the police department make it difficult? Because I remember one of the more shocking things about this to me was how many things could happen at Baylor, like the Sam Ukwachu situation. All these things could happen, and we didn't find out until way late that there was even a charge against somebody who was set to go to trial.
Yeah, but that was actually, the decision to seal his indictment was actually made by the assistant district attorney, Hillary Laborde, who was trying the case because she didn't want the jury pool polluted by the fact that he had passed a polygraph test. But no, I mean, there was another incident involving Ahmad Dixon, one of their All-American safeties, which we wrote about, where he was involved in a fight at a university event on campus where a kid was badly injured. And for whatever reason, a Waco police officer took the police report, put it in a locked filing cabinet inside of an office, and wouldn't give access to it to anybody who had requested any sort of those documents.
Now, we're talking to Mark Schlabach and Paula Levine, the authors of Violated, exposing rape in Baylor University amid college football sexual assault crisis. Now, was this just simply a case of a school being hell-bent on winning at football and then just throwing everything out the window?
Well, I think part of it was that they were so into their reputation, into their image, that they were very concerned about screwing that up. And, but the cases went beyond football. They went to regular students, too. And so I think it was not just the penchant to win, but just the reputation. And also, we're talking about a Christian university, and they didn't want to sully the religious reputation of their university by having all this attention to alleged sexual assaults.
Well, I guess that's one of these tricky things about this is with schools is while there's the obligation to try to protect their students, there seems to be a prioritization also on not giving a negative signal to people who are out there. So it seems that what you found in the book is that the dedication to, I guess, what they call it the Baylor way, or the appearance of it, was more important than the application.
Yeah, I think there was largely just indifference, Bomani, and I think if you read the book, anybody will see that it was campus-wide systematic failure. It wasn't just the football program. It wasn't just the athletic department. It was the Waco Police Department, the Baylor Police Department, the Baylor administration, the Title IX office, which really didn't exist, and judicial affairs. You got to remember, this was a university that didn't allow its students to dance on campus till the 1990s. I just think there was this denial by the people in charge that not only was sexual assault happening, but they didn't even want to admit kids were having premarital sex, were drinking, were smoking marijuana, the things that go on campuses across the country. But, people in charge just didn't think that would happen at Baylor.
All right, we're talking to Mark Schlabach and Paula Levine, the authors of Violated. Now, I guess it becomes tricky for me, like as someone who's been around universities for a very long time. It seems kind of crazy, the idea that people who run a school would be in such levels of denial about what was going on campus. So from Baylor, once they, was it a matter of them discovering these things happening, or just a matter of them acknowledging?
Well, Bomani, you're right. I mean, it's amazing that in this day and age, with news coming out all the time about colleges and sexual assault and their football or basketball programs, that they wouldn't have thought, hey, maybe we should see what's going on here. I think it's a little bit of both, that they didn't want to acknowledge it, or that they wanted to deflect the attention and not, as the phrase everybody uses, sort of, sweep everything under the rug.
Now, as the football team began to rise in prominence, how important was that to the university? Because they've been so terrible forever.
No, it was traditionally one of the worst programs in FBS. I mean, they were at the bottom of the Big 12, I think the first 9-10 years after they joined the league. And under Briles, they'd won back-to-back Big 12, at least co-championships. And, we're probably one vote away from maybe playing in the inaugural college football playoff. So certainly he took them to heights Baylor had never been before. And on top of that, Baylor was a destination for top recruits in Texas and other parts of the country. People wanted to play in his offense. And, when you've hungered for success for so long, it's really hard to screw it up. And, at the same time, Baylor's kind of ascending as a college football program. They've also made a systematic decision to become one of the country's premier research universities, which would attract millions of dollars, billions of dollars in federal funding for research and things like that. So certainly when the football team's winning and it's the front porch, that helps with giving and ticket sales and enrollment and everything else.
All right, talking to Paula Levine and Mark Schlabach, the authors of Violated, here on The Right Time. Now, Art Briles, one point that he seemed to want to make in his defenses of himself was that this is not about the football program, this is about the university, and that seems to fall in line with your conclusions that a lot of this had to do with the university. But was there anything particular about the football program within this culture?
Yeah, one thing that really stood out within the football program was that the allegations of gang rapes, the violent nature of these alleged sexual assaults. I mean, the Title IX investigators were shocked by this. That was what stood out to both of them who resigned, and it was a lot of these things happen at parties. Women described being taken into a room and like multiple men. I mean, one account from one woman said she thought maybe 10 to 15 guys were involved. That's what really stood out about a lot of these allegations involving football players.
And you guys talked to a lot of victims in the course of doing this book. What was that experience like? Like, I guess as a writer, I'm curious about like how you approach something like that and dealing with somebody who's exposing something so raw and such a statement of their vulnerability.
I think to acknowledge that every woman is different. I mean, some are ready to tell their stories, some aren't. To tell them how you plan on using it and to give them the option to not have their name used. But I also think a lot of women want to know, well, what's going to be the result of this? Like, I'm putting myself out there, I'm putting my story out there. Is it going to have an effect? I had so many women ask me about that, and the hope is that by speaking out and by making their stories a strong narrative about what happened. I mean, people can really, in the book, people can really see like. It wasn't just the incident. It wasn't just that night or that party. It was what happened the months and years after, about how this completely changed their lives. To try to sort of tell them that your story can really affect change. It was important for them to hear that.
Well, after all the research that you did on this book and after writing it and completing it, what do you think when you hear about this idea that's being floated now, perhaps Art Briles being a head coach in 2018 at some campus?
I've said for a while, Bomani, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in 2018. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, if ever. Maybe he'll coach in the pros, but I don't think there is a university president or an AD out there that can read our book, read everything else that's been written about Baylor, and determine that Art Briles should be leading a football program. I thought one of the more interesting revelations in the book was, when Art Briles and Ian McCall, the former Baylor AD, were called in to meet with the trustees who were going to decide whether or not to fire him. They gave him one last chance to explain why it happened and what he was going to do to fix it. And one of the trustees told us it was like he had made a bad call late in a game. They lost the game, and he said it wouldn't happen again. He had no plan in place to address these issues. So I think that was really, really, really telling about, just how little relevance he really gave these issues.
All right, that is Paul Levine and Mark Schleybaugh, the authors of Violated, a new book out about the culture at Baylor University and the sexual assault crisis. Check that out. You get a chance. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more.